Hello guys and gals, welcome back. I've got another sound for you this week. After I got really close with the Josh Wink one, it seems like every DJ and his dog has asked me how to get this modern Pluck sound that's in a lot of tracks right now by artists like Medusa and Cream. I hear it as a kind of trance house hybrid. I'll show you how I make it, and of course the patch will be in the description. Let's go. Okay, so there's a few variations on this, but the starting principles are all the same. I'll show you some examples that I've gathered here. So we've got Emily Nash's Garden. That kind of thing. Medusa's remix of Bad Habits, Ed Sheeran. Castian, Hayden James, Elderbrook, On Your Own. The Touch Me remix by Cream. Medusa remix of Power Over Me. Which she also turns into a lead. That is one of the more interesting things about this sound. It could be used as kind of a bass or a lead. Or certainly the top end of a bass. Betty Benassi has a kind of similar one in this remix. It's more of a trance pluck, but similar enough that we'll include it. But that's the kind of sound we're talking about. Let me show you how we get in that direction. Okay, so as usual, we start with the default Vital saw wave. I'm just going to use the line from the Medusa track. It's a good hybrid bass lead kind of vibe. And the first thing we do with a Pluck sound is make the Pluck envelope, which means short decay, usually a little bit of release, low sustain. It sounds something like this. You could say it's taking shape. Do you get it? Envelope shape? No? Okay, moving on. Now we're going to make a second envelope, and we're going to send a filter to that one. We could send it to the same envelope, but we need separate control at some point. We're going to leave the filter on the default 12 dB low pass. I'm going to take all the resonance off. That goes to the second envelope. I'm going to turn it right down. That's the main building block of the sound. The next thing is to take the second oscillator and put it through the same filter. And we're going to blend in probably something like a square wave. Now that's made the sound thinner because it's phase cancelling. So the first thing we need to do is stop the random phase up here. We want that to trigger the same every time we press a note, not randomly. So let's go to 0. So mixing this oscillator in is going to be our kind of flavor adjustment. That is the essence of it. I'm going to change this to single note polyphony. Only one note at a time. That's what this voices means. The main crux of this is actually quite similar to the acid sound. So what we need to do is use an EQ into a distortion. It's a very similar principle to the 303. And instead of, we will be rolling off some low end, but nowhere near as much as the acid sound. What we're going to do here is basically push a very large mid EQ peak through a clipper. So I'm just going to turn on the default distortion and we're going to play around with this peak. Let's throw a reverb on, see how this sounds. And believe it or not, that's most of it really. To bring out even more of that sound, we're going to use Vital's inbuilt multiband compressor, which with a slow attack is going to give us some extra poke at the beginning. And the compression is going to squish and shape the sound after that. If you've ever used Steve Duda's OTT plugin, it's kind of like that. It's quite aggressive. In fact, you could use this dial as an aggression dial to match wherever your mix is at. And that's pretty much it, basically. Let me show you the final thing. So you see, I've made some macros here that are controlling lots of things. We've got peak. Basically controlling how high the filter goes, and a few other elements. I've got a tail on here, which is basically a form of release. So you can keep that nice and tight. We've also got swell, which is basically an attack. That kind of thing. And I've added a thing called a snap. Which is the third envelope here. It's basically a 1/10 of a second spike to the pitch. So you get a really transient attack. There's a third oscillator in this patch, but it's not being used. But you can turn it up for some extra detune and width. Because some of them do use that, especially in conjunction with the swell. As you can see in the effects, that big mid push into the multiband, reverb, soft clipper. There's an optional chorus. Again, another way of getting width and some detune. And there's a delay for... And that's basically it. Oh, I did play around with the pulse width when I added the square in. This is different vibes. It's never really mixed in fully though. It's just a way of basically shaping the main waveform. Having said that, if you want to play around with different tones, I've got the bend set up ready on the sawtooth here. There's all kinds of subtle ways you can play with the shape of the main sound, and there's major ways you can play with the main sound. You don't have to use a simple sawtooth. We can explore some more complex waveforms. It will work with all sorts of stuff. Now, the patch, as you will receive it, the 2022 House Trance Lead. Very original name, I know. Will sound like... that. I will also be giving away the Ableton Rack, which has some extra macro controls, and that also includes some of these rough sound-alike settings for the patch. So if we play through some of the riffs, the Nash. We've got the Medusa. We've got Cassian. The Cream. Got the other Medusa in here, the one with the slow attack. And the melody variant. And this one's called Benassi-ish, because it's not quite the normal Trance Pluck, but it's useful. Okay, there we have it. Or something close to it, anyway. Obviously, there is a million permutations on all of those variables, the waveforms, the EQ peaks, the distortion, etc. But as a default sound, that is very strong. You can use that as the main lead in your tracks. But obviously, I encourage you, have a play around, make it your own. Start with the macros, and then move on to playing with different waveforms and EQ settings. And I shall leave you to get on with that. But don't forget, hit like if you liked, sub if you loved, leave me a comment, and if not, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.